The problem with any of these large enterprises, when they hear that their competitors are doing something AI based, they also want to start it. Now, the first thing that an enterprise takes the action on is hire data scientists. So they hire a data scientist, they throw them a problem, and they tell him, "You get this done for me." Now, it's not as easy as said, right? So because you need data first, you need to gather the data, you need to cleanse the data, you need to structure the data, then you need to pick a model, you need to train it and judge, see the accuracy of the model, put it into application. This takes a long life cycle.
What are your thoughts on data annotation trying to also solve this problem of data bias? And there's also this AI bias now that's penetrating into the system. So, what are the measures the organizations can take so that we ensure there's fairness, there's equity in the AI systems? Because we all understand that at some point there will be so much of data generated by AI and everybody would be using AI systems. So, how do we be fair and inclusive so that the data that is being represented for training is equitable? Hello everybody, this is Geetika from Nanobits, and today we have the co-founder and the CTO of Taskmonk, Vikram Kedlaya. Vikram, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Geetika.
Vikram, I am super excited to talk to you today as the data annotation space is something I closely relate to from my experience working in Amazon as a product leader, where we built a team grounds up and we were classifying billions of products for Amazon business in-house. And we had spent enough time, I think almost a year, with human classifiers building up that product and gradually moved towards machine learning based classification systems. So super excited to learn a lot more from you because you've been doing this for the last 5+ years. So before we get on to your journey, I would love to also ask you this question. How are you feeling about in today's time where AI is no longer a technology that was heard or talked about with a limited few set of people, but almost every literate person is now talking about it? So what is your general sentiment about this?
Yeah, like you mentioned, everyone talks about AI, but I don't know how many of them actually understand the implications of AI. I think there is still a lot of fear among people about the employment, so that AI is going to replace humans and there will be not many employment opportunities in the future. I think that fear is more than the actual understanding of the applications of AI. So that's how I look at it. I think the education that is necessary for it to even reach the rural people is essential at this point.
Yeah, that is true. Cool. Thanks for sharing that, Vikram. Let's also start with your journey now. So, what inspired you to start Taskmonk and how has the journey been so far?
Well, I think somewhere in 2017 is when I decided to start something of my own. Before that, I began my journey in a company called Stream. So straight out of college, I moved to Bangalore, started looking for a job. Even though I had an offer from Infosys, I wanted to do something different. So I started looking for jobs off campus, and I got into a company called Stream. And my dream was always to be in the technology and be a programmer, but that did not happen initially. And I was kind of in a team which was supporting and handling the DevOps and other things. And that's where the journey began in this industry. And I worked there for about 4.5 years with internship and a full-time employment. And I got multiple chances to switch teams there and understand how a company works. So that was, even though it was a 2000 people strong team, I got to work with different teams, different organization units, and other things, and I got an understanding of how actually a company runs and what are the parts involved. And I got even an understanding of to what level the HRs work in the company, because if you look at the industry today, HRs are not really understood by the employees much. But I got to work really closely with them on an application that I developed for them, and I understood a lot of things. And that's when I realized that I can start something of my own. That has always been a dream. Although the first dream was always to work for Google, that did not happen. And the second dream was to start a company. I thought that was the right time for me to start a company. And initially, I started a company called with another partner, a company called Murmuration Solutions. So we were developing small products in the mobile space. But in 2017, I think somewhere in July, I met my current business partner Chetan, and he was running a company called Kriya, which was about 250 people strong BPO company, and a small part of it was doing data labeling. But when I met him, he explained the problem of the data labeling industry to me. He said that most of the work is done on Excel sheets. And if he wants to scale his company to 1,000 people, it cannot be done just running the things on Excel sheet. So that is when we started the discussion on building a technology for these people. And it was not the kind of experience that I had before, because one was I did not come from a programming background fully. I had a very limited knowledge on that. Uh, but we wanted to solve this in a way that whatever we design can be used by people who are not really used to computers in the first place. They know only login, Excel, only that. They have not used browsers much. They don't understand applications and all that. So we wanted to build something that can be used by them. So we wanted to keep it very low scale, very minimal UI and all of things. So we started. And the question he asked was, uh, how long would it take for us to build something like that for them? So my bet was 6 months, worst case scenario 1 year, but luckily we were in production by by the sixth month, and we had a customer because we built for a specific use case, and we had a customer initially, and that went on really well. We improved on a lot of things, although we initially started only with text and keeping only e-commerce as the focus, because we had one of the largest e-commerce company from the US as a customer. We kept some of their use cases in mind and developed this product. But later we understood the scale of data annotations that is coming into India from across the globe. So we got into computer vision, we got into audio transcription and video, all the other things, and today we are even developing LiDAR solutions. So this is how the journey began, and that's how we scaled. And along with that, the company that we were working with, which was a 250 people company, today it is around 3,000 people strong company.
Wow.
They scaled because of the technology we provided, and we scaled because of the users they added. So that's how the journey has been going really well.
Amazing. Amazing. This is so great to hear, Vikram. Also, like, were you all already envisioning that AI is going to explode to the magnitude that we are seeing now, or it just happened?
No, we definitely knew that AI was going to be the future, because some of the applications that we were, while discussing with customer about data labeling, some of the applications that they were building, just by hearing the ideas, we were super excited. And we were talking to data scientists directly, and we knew the confidence they had. And it was not just something that anyone would say, okay, I want to build an AI device which can perform these jobs, these jobs. It was not that. They had the data, and they knew exactly what they had to do with it. And the application was totally just out there for us to see. And that's when we really believed that this is going to be the future. And initially, we saw it only in the retail space. About they wanted to increase the and enhance the shopping experience of users who enter into a retail store, their purchasing actions, their interest, study, behavioral study, all of these were some of the applications we saw. But my idea of AI was initially drafted by Tesla, because I was a big follower of Tesla. And I really got to drive it once in the US, and that's when I realized the potential of this industry. What can AI do? And that is one of the real applications of, Tesla replacing all the chauffeurs. And that is the real AI threat to employment in one angle. So these one on one end we saw the retail and e-commerce, and on the other side this ADAS industry, and we knew the potential of AI, and we knew this was going to be the future. And for us, data annotation was the focus because we wanted to grow while the AI is actually being developed, not wait for the AI to be
Yeah.
developed and build something on top of that. So while it is still hot, we wanted to be there. And we knew that we can bring the business to India, most of it, if we have the right technology. And that's how we believed in it, and we got started with that.
Amazing. There is so much more that we can talk on and on about this, but let's also focus on some of these other areas which are very important with respect to annotation and the use cases around it. Vikram, I've been following you on LinkedIn as well, and I've seen that you talk a lot about human annotation as well as AI annotation that is also picking up. Where do you see this balance evolving where AI technology advances? Do we think that human annotators would become obsolete, or will there always be a need for some human expertise?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question that get asked a lot. The thing that we see and what we also believe in is that human annotation initially, like of 3 4 years ago, was for doing even the slightest minimal job that is required to do a data annotation. For example, classifying a tweet as positive or negative, doing a sentiment analysis to that level was required. But today, a data labeler also need to be skilled. It's not just that someone who has just graduated from college can do data labeling from day one. They need to be trained a lot because it is also becoming very industry specific. Not everyone can do the data labeling that is required for any industry. It is becoming very curated these days. And the data is also, that is something not given as a scratch set of data which is not labeled at all. Today, the data comes either with a lot of pre-annotations which need to be validated, or the exceptions that come out of model. So that tells us this could not be labeled by a model. Now it's time for humans to label. So humans need to be smarter. So we have also seen the upskilling of labelers required, the amount of training that an organization performs for the labelers to be skilled, and the amount of structure that has come in within these KPO BPO companies which do the data labeling, that has also gone to the enterprise level these days. The processes there that we see in terms of quality workflow, in terms of being accountable, all of this have gone to the enterprise level. So that's the scale at which they are doing today. And even going forward, it just only keeps upskilling, but it's not going to be obsolete at all. There will be definitely more industries that will come into the AI. We have only seen the surface. We have seen very few industries that have actually picked AI, but it can be applied in any industry.
Amazing. And for the companies that are heavily relying on these AI powered tools for data annotation, how do they ensure like quality accuracy? Are there any risks, pitfalls that you think of that they should be careful about?
So, no company today does the data labeling completely in an automated way. There will always be a human in the loop. Be it in-house or outsource, it is immaterial, but there need to be a human eye that looks at the data that goes into the training of the model. You cannot completely rely on an AI labeled data for a model to be trained because there might be exceptions, there might be biases, there might be other reasons for you to not get into that. But instead of doing 100% of the labeling today, the effort has reduced, maybe let's say 60 to 70%, because 30% is something the model can do automatically. There are automated systems. Even our Taskmonk platform today provides a lot of tools and AI generated pre-annotations for the labelers to skip through all the initial things that they need to do and only focus on the things that a system cannot do, which a human needs to perform. So this is where we see that a lot of automated systems also have evolved over a period of time to do certain things. Now, I spoke about Tesla earlier. If you take the same example here as well, they have their in-house platform for doing data labeling, and that has evolved over a period of time. Initially 100% of the labeling was being done human based, but now let's say maybe 60 to 70% is automated, but that's for only one industry, very specific to their industry. But we, or the platform providers like us, for data annotation, we try to cater to any industries. Ours is not specific to one industry. There is no limitation on the data type. So that's why we want to be catering to every industry that wants to get into AI, and there is no limitation on the data type. So this is where we see that automation can happen on case by case basis, but it is not going to be something that can be fully done without a human in the loop.
Got it. Okay. Vikram, switching gears a little bit over here, but still staying on the same topic. You also talk a lot about AI powered decision intelligence. There is this misconception that companies need a lot of data for AI modeling. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it depends on the amount of knowledge that you're trying to gather for your model. So some of the applications, for example, let's take ChatGPT, which is very popular today, right? The amount of data required to train a model like that is humongous. It's not something small, and it is not something every company can afford to do. But what is the real use of it other than giving you some curated answers for your urgent need, wherever you need to run to a meeting, you need to prepare something, you need to look up a topic for a presentation or any of those sorts, it will help you. But if you really want something very specific to your industry, it may not be the best one to answer. Now, if I want to develop something for an industry like medicine, I may not really use ChatGPT for any of those, but rather what I would do is I have collected data very specific to this industry, maybe from the doctors, from the pharmacies, and other places. Now I want this to be trained for a model to be built, which can give me answers only relevant to this industry. Now this is where now all the talks have been about large language models, but now people are starting talking about small language models. So we don't need a large model to perform anything, because the cost required to host it, the data security that comes into the picture, and data, the ethical practices, all of these are considered today. So in such cases, companies do want to build their own models, but they do not have large data to do it. So instead of building a chat GPT, you build your own GPT, which can just cater to the requirements that you have. So this is where we also get a lot of data to be labeled just to build a model for generative AI today. So people always wonder, when there is ChatGPT, when there is Llama, when there is Cloud, why are people still building these models? It's very relevant to the industry that they cater to, and they want to have complete control over it. They don't want the data to go out of their system. They don't want it to be hosted anywhere else. So these are all the practices which are actually coming into the AI, that is increasing the amount of models that are also coming out in the market.
Very
So
true.
it's no more a competition that I see between the companies to build the best models. It is everything that everyone does repetitively, but only for their specific needs.
A million dollar question over here. Do you work with OpenAI to annotate any of their data?
Not really.
Okay.
We haven't gone that far, but we hope we do start to working with companies like that. May not necessarily be OpenAI, but any company of that scale.
Sure. Just on, because we are on this topic of data also, what we've also learned is that, people like data scientists are spending a disproportionate amount of time just preparing data, right? So, how can companies like Taskmonk help alleviate some of this burden so data scientists can actually focus on what is core for them, which is model development and other tasks? So, what role can Taskmonk play over there?
That's right. So in the past, I've spoken about this once in one of my posts. So the problem with any of these large enterprises, when they hear that their competitors are doing something AI based, they also want to start it. Now, the first thing that an enterprise takes the action on is hire data scientists. So they hire a data scientists, they throw them a problem, and they tell him, you get this done for me. Now, it's not as easy as said, right? So, because you need data first, you need to gather the data, you need to cleanse the data, you need to structure the data, then you need to pick a model, you need to train it and judge, see the accuracy of the model, put it into application. This takes a long life cycle. But a data scientist time is not the best that is to be utilized for doing all this. Their train should be used to look at the data structure that is present and to train the model, and maybe for the deployment later. But rest of the things, we tell them that we can do it for you because that's our job mainly, and we have many other automated ways to do it. You need not really worry about it. So to a lot of data scientists we say this: you tell us, you give your data, you tell us your requirement, you just tell us what is your output format. So to be very technical, if you are expecting a JSON format in which you need the output, you just give us the format, rest will be taken care by us. So we at Taskmonk, we handle the technology for all the data labelers. So we do end-to-end automation for them from the beginning, where we get the data to structuring that data, and all is not by a human because we are only 28 people strong and we don't have human to sit and do most of things, but we have automated systems in place to do that. So we do most of it: data cleansing, data categorization, and conversion, pre-processing, and uploading it to the system. Then comes the data labelers who label. As soon as they finish the labeling, quality check is done by their quality checkers. After that, there comes the post-processing, in which we convert the data to the data scientist's expected format, and we give them an API. You just call this, you'll get the data back in the format you want, which you can directly feed into your system to train the model. So this is the entire pipeline which we have simplified for them. So instead of them having to spend so much time, we can do it for them. Now, the other problem that data scientists were facing is, this was on both the sides of the spectrums that we see. One is the data science and other is the data labeling teams. We are in between, and we are very happy to be in between. Also because one is we see the data scientist problem, other we also see the labeling teams problems. The kind of conversations that used to happen between data scientists and the data labeling teams, they could not really, bridge that gap of understanding what the data scientists were really explaining to what they were understanding. There was a lot of decision that was going wrong. So this is where we pitched in and we said we will handle this technology in between. We will make it the medium for your conversation, and you don't have to worry about the rest. You get the data in your expected format, and you get the data in your expected format. So this entire pipeline we have built to solve both the sides problems.
Very interesting. And just because we're talking about this whole data preparation process, what are the challenges that exist today that can be, addressed in order to accelerate the entire AI development, not just limited to a company or to the work that, the classifiers are also doing? So what can exactly organizations do to get better at this?
So one of the big things that they have brought in is the levels of check they perform to increase the accuracies. So initially, when we also started, there was only level 1 and level 2. Level 1 was annotation, level 2 was quality check, and then delivery. Today, we have gone up to level 8 in our system, in our platform, because there have come processes which need that level accurate data, and it's not just one or two humans who can just decide that. It goes up to 7 8 users who look at it, they fine tune it, and then they give it to the customer. So this is the level of annotations that is being performed, but the amount of time taken is also
Yeah.
uh, it's going to increase with number of users looking at it, right? But for the company which has given the data, they don't really care how many levels of checks you perform. They only want the data to be given back to them in a certain period of time. So this is where we come in, and we actually get involved in most of their project execution. We understand what processes they are performing, and we try to automate or give insights into how things can be done faster. And we talk to the other side also when necessary and ask them what is exactly their requirement. If something like this is done, would it suit their requirement? These kind of conversations we pitch in and we solve for them. Ultimately, it's the decision comes to quality versus time. So either you want the data to be labeled really fast, or you take enough time and give us better accuracy. But it always stops at both. So we want the best accuracy in the fastest time, and
Very
this
true.
is where automation helps. So more than just being a data labeling platform, we have also evolved as a workflow automation platform. So we do a lot of workflow enhancements. we find the right people in the organization to whom we have to, redirect the data for a quality check. So because the system kind of learns who is good at doing what, and we have the insights in the system, and we know exactly who can do a better quality check of a particular task. So these are the enhancements we have brought in, and we have trained the team also to follow the same. So there are team leads who know who is good at what. They kind of categorize them before they even upload to the system and configure the required things, and they're able to do that in a better way today.
Interesting, very nice. Vikram, let's talk about an interesting use case. We have all read about, the Amazon use case and what happened recently. How do you see data annotation shaping the future of e-commerce and personalized shopping experiences after that?
Yeah, so that is quite interesting to us as well, because we were India's largest fashion company and also Europe's largest fashion company. We are very glad to be working with both, and we understand what exactly they are trying to do, and it's a very interesting problem to solve. So, one of the things that we see is, when I talk just about fashion, it's the hardest nut to crack, I believe, because what is interesting to one person will not be interesting to another person, may not be really interesting to another person. So everyone has a fashion of their choice, and the kind of shopping you do, how exactly you solve that problem. So for example, if I am purchasing something, I don't want to look at the entire catalog, go through it, I have to find something very specific. So there are multiple processes involved that is being enhanced today, starting from search relevance. That is the biggest exercise which is performed across the globe in e-commerce companies. Nobody can get their search right because of the evolving catalog, and you can't even name some of the products with the right nomenclature today. So this is where the problem is being solved even today. We have seen the search relevance when we started, and it's still going at the same scale today or even more. It has not been solved. And I've seen the problem myself. When I search something on Amazon that I want, the results are not always relevant, right? That's a little frustrating. So if a system like Amazon or any other platform, Flipkart, Myntra, any of these, can understand my shopping behavior and give me the relevant products whenever I search, it exactly knows out of this catalog these are the items I am interested in. I always look at them. So if their recommendations can be based on that, it solves a major problem for me. But at the same time, I don't want them to misuse my data as well, right? I'm always scared. If my search history is misused for something, then what happens? I start getting ads everywhere about the things that I've searched, which is not a pleasant experience for me. So this is the biggest concern everyone has, and people who I talk to, and whenever I ask them to search something online as well, they always say, "Oh, I don't want to search that because I'll start getting ads everywhere."
Yeah.
This is the biggest concern. So how do you tackle, collecting all the data from the user for their personalization versus, securing that data and securing it from misuse of that data, not leaking the data. This is the biggest challenge most of them face. And it's never really transparent, because you don't know what exactly they do with their data, no matter what they claim. So how can you make it transparent? So when in the evolving system of AI, you're always worried about only one thing, the data secrecy. So how can you maintain your data? How can you make sure that your data does not go out of your system? And how do you guarantee to your users that your data is secure? These are the challenges that's always faced by most of the people. And this is why I previously said that people don't really want to rely on large language models that is hosted somewhere else, share their data, train the model on their data. That's why everyone wants to build their own model.
Yeah.
This is the trade-off mainly.
Yeah. I could very closely relate again to the search relevance problem that you were talking about. I was the product owner for a brief period of time with Amazon Business Search, and we were working on improving the search relevance for our business customers. So I can completely relate to the challenges that exist even within these large organizations in order to
Right.
get better with, like, improving their algorithms.
Right.
Since we are also talking a little bit about personalization and privacy, um, is privacy also overrated in the age of AI? And how do we weigh the benefits of data collection and processing against the concerns that we are talking about privacy and data misuse?
Yeah, I think you have used the right word, overrated, because your data is never really private once you're online on the systems. Wherever you sign up, there is always a lot of data collection that happens from their end, and whatever actions you take are always captured. So, but what they do with that data is something that is more of an ethical practice than whatever is written in the privacy terms, because it may not really match. And I would say that it's a little overrated, but then, even with the systems becoming AI based, there should be a lot of importance that should be given to data privacy, because there should also be some level of control. Because if I have today decided to use some system and I am giving them a lot of data, I should have an option tomorrow to wipe out all my data as well. If that's the level of guarantee that a system can provide, that will be something that I would choose today. But that's not the case now. For example, if you are using chat gpt, and it might have been trained on your own information, you don't even know. They have nowhere shown what information, what data they have trained their models on, you don't know. So likewise, your data might be sold to so many companies who build models on top of it, and it might be misused in so many places. And the other problem with the privacy is the deepfakes today, that a lot of celebrities are facing, right? So that's a challenge which cannot be easily addressed unless there comes really strict laws to control this.
On similar lines, Vikram, what are your thoughts on data annotation trying to also solve this problem of data bias? And there's also this AI bias now that's penetrating into the system. So, what are the measures the organizations can take so that we ensure there's fairness, there's equity in the AI systems? Because we all understand that at some point there will be so much of data generated by AI and everybody would be using AI systems. So, how do we be fair and inclusive so that the data that is being represented for training is equitable?
That's right. That's a classic problem, not just in data annotation, in any system, I would say. The biasness is very important, and the diversification as well. For example, what we try in most of the cases is we have different centers from where the data annotation happens. So we don't usually get the data annotation done from only one center. For example, we have centers in different parts of Karnataka, in different parts of Madhya Pradesh, in different parts of Rajasthan, in these places. All of them are locally hired because these are all tier 2, tier 3 cities we are talking about. And all of them are local to that location. So some of the cases are, the requirement itself is in such a way that we need data annotators from a specific location. For example, all the voice-based collection that we need to do, voice-based annotation that we need to do, we need the locals to speak in that language, to have the expertise in that language. But when it comes to the regular generic text annotation, for example, if we have to, mark all the tweets as what political leaning does the author have, or any of those sorts, this is where the biasness come into place, right? So people might agree, disagree on a lot of other factors. But here in these cases, what we do is we do the distribution of data from our system itself to different location. If the customer requires the data to be annotated in that way, our system has that allocation engine which can redirect the data to different locations and get the annotation done. One location's data annotation is quality checked by the quality checkers at another location. So this way we try to overcome a lot of biasness and make it really diversified. And the other challenge is not just only with data labeling, like I said, when the users collect the data, also the data should also be, should not be biased. So you cannot take data from one location alone for any particular problem. For example, if you're trying to build a self-driving car in India, you cannot just take the example, the data collected in a small city and apply it in Bangalore, which may never work. So you need data from different cities for their own reasons. So this is how we kind of try to solve the problem, but at the other end, the data scientists also need to be aware of this fact when they try to collect the data or train the model. So we try to do as much as possible from the data labeling end, but there is also the other side to it. And when it comes to the opportunities also, we try to provide equal opportunities to people from different location, because this is a very small scale workforce, right? It's not something that expands that massively. So when we get a project from any of the customer, we try to generate equal employment from different locations for this fact alone.
That's interesting. I'm sure a lot of organizations are also thinking on similar lines and making sure that we're being not biased towards a specific
Absolutely.
factor, and we are
Yeah,
introducing like more fairness in the data and the representation.
correct.
On similar lines, Vikram, I was in my previous avatar, the co-founder of Atypical Advantage, where we were
Mhm.
helping generate livelihood opportunities for people with disabilities.
Right.
And I've closely monitored how people with disabilities get discriminated at various levels. It's in India, it's outside as well. How can data annotation as a practice be used to improve accessibility for people with disabilities? We have something as a platform where we can remove some of those biases, also improve accessibility. So what is Taskmonk doing, or what is generally happening in the industry?
I have not seen use cases that are coming along to, increase the accessibility for the users with disabilities. That is not something I've come across. But from being a data annotation provider, what we have only solved so far is generating employment for them, people with disabilities. That's the only angle we have looked at and solved for them. For example, we work with a company called Orquid, which is working only with neurodivergence people. All their annotators are neurodivergent. So this is one good thing that they are doing, that they are giving employment to all those people. Similarly, there is another company that we work with. They only employ people from tier 3 cities. So they are trying to generate employment for them. So these are some of the ways as a data annotation company can solve the one end of problem for them with the employment opportunities. But like you said, to increase the accessibility for them, definitely there needs to be one is whenever you build a model, there should be a slight set of data that is kept only for this specific aspect, and that should be labeled and reviewed by the people with disabilities. It cannot be done
Absolutely.
by me, definitely, because I may not really understand their worldview, right? So in such cases, they should be considered. There should be a small set of data which is kept aside only for that sector, and should be trained specifically using that data. So this is how the inclusiveness can come in for them as well, and they will always feel part of it. And I'm sure AI can solve a lot of problems for people with disabilities than any government does, because they are least worried about by most of the governments. They're not given importance at all. But
Yeah.
AI as a system, if trained well, can do a better job for sure.
Yeah, I was super impressed by Chat GPT 4.0, and then what Gemini came out recently in terms of features, which is also giving a lot of empowerment to people with disabilities, where they can use technology to help with their day-to-day tasks, which is something that we never heard about. So I'm sure a lot of companies are thinking about it, but it is a matter of fact that everybody becomes more inclusive and introduces that in their data.
That's right.
Uh, Vikram, we are coming almost towards the end of the podcast, and we usually end the podcast asking for an advice that our guests would like to give entrepreneurs who are building AI powered products or products which are using AI. From your own lessons that you've learned, what is that one piece of advice that you would like to share with our listeners?
Okay. Definitely, from my experience, for any entrepreneur out there trying to build something with AI, there is no competition in AI for sure. If there is a company that has already built a solution and you're looking at building the same solution, go ahead and still do it. In AI, it's all about accuracy. You can always be accurate, more accurate than the company that's already doing it. But again, there are segments. In some segments, you might be more accurate. In some segments, they might be more accurate. It always depends on the data and the requirement. But that does not stop you from developing whatever you do, because most of the people I talk to, when they have an idea, they say, okay, this company has already done it, and they would say, okay, if ChatGPT is already there, why would anyone use mine? But there are always instances that we have seen even the smallest models having applications out there. And The other good thing about today's world is a lot of things are becoming open source. That is given a lot of prominence today. And with that, you don't have to do a lot of things in the beginning to start a company. To build an AI product, you can utilize any of the open source model, but at the same time even contribute to those open source industry, because that's the growing industry that keeps us all, competitive and also on tip of our toes. So this is the advice I have. Competition does not stop like it did with the older systems. Whatever products we were building, there were only one player for any product, but today anyone can build anything. There is no competition.
Very rightly said, Vikram. I know there are a lot of people who have this inertia or hesitation that there are so many players building or solving for the same problem, and that is the reason that they don't want to take that step. So, an advice coming from you obviously would build some confidence in them. On that note, Vikram, thank you so much for joining us today on this podcast. It has been an amazing conversation. I learned a lot. I was super excited talking to you about everything related to data annotation. And I'm sure a lot of people who have so many questions about this area as a practice would have learned something new, as well as people who have never heard of what goes on in data annotation as a space would be encouraged to go and learn about it. We are very excited to see what new and cool innovations you and the Taskmonk team would bring out for a lot of people, not just in India but worldwide. So, thank you once again for coming to our show and sharing such valuable insights.
I really hope it was useful, Geetika, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Thank you.